This is Pete Moore here on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having my friend Ryan Drummond here, hailing from Wilmington, Delaware.
That's right.
And we are going to talk about the next wave of recruiting and how we are going to get D1, D2, and D3 athletes and professional athletes who need to come in and work in the real world, how we're going to get them jobs very quickly and efficiently into the Halo sector, into Fortune 500 companies, and to make sure that people that have hard work, discipline, have been successful in their college careers are going to be successful in the business world. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Excellent. So Ryan, why don't you give your background to our listeners here and talk about, your athletic performances back in the day and how you worked in executive recruiting and kind of gotten to the point where you saw a frustration in the market that needed to be solved. And as we say, when people come in here and pitch us business ideas, we always say, okay, what's the frustration? How are you going to solve it? Mm-hmm. Who are you helping? Who are the stakeholders? Why are we going to get them on a mission critical, athlete book SaaS platform? So fire away.
Yeah. So my name's Ryan Drummond again. And I grew up playing sports and played college lacrosse at University of Delaware. When I was 2004, I graduated. I was captain of the team. And, that experience alone, anybody that's played college sports, anybody listening to this that's played college sports knows that it is a grind. And you're doing that 7 days a week, really. I mean, you're going to get a day off, but, you're waking up at 5 a.m., you're going to bed at 12 p.m., and every single day you're getting pushed past your perceived limits. Mm-hmm. Every day you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I could do this, but you end up doing it. And what happens, at least for me, is when you come out of that 4 years, you develop a certain level of grit. The problem was, and I'm speaking personally, but I know it's relative to every other college athlete or many of the college athletes, is that you graduate and you don't know exactly what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And your identity is all tied up to being a college athlete, but you're no longer a college athlete. So what do you do? No, for me, what my path was is that I had stumbled into recruiting, whether that been the position that I should have been doing or not, but that was what I ended up doing. I got into recruiting. I was doing technology recruiting at an investment bank, and went along the staffing for a model for a long time, just placing senior level technologists at JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank and Credit Suisse and Morgan Stanley and BNP.
And how'd you? Is that Stephen Douglas Associates?
So Stephen Douglas Associates was one of the few agencies that I had worked for.
Gotcha.
Was really lucky to work for a guy named John Bolton, who him and I had started the New York branch of Stephen Douglas together back in, I think I'm getting my years mixed up, 2008. But he was a wrestler. And this guy just knew how to grind it out, mm-hmm. Was consistent every single day. And he took me under his wing and introduced me to his old network. And that's where I really learned how to do recruiting right. Because, like any industry, you have people that do it the wrong way and do it the right way. You've enjoyed buying a car from one guy and you've walked away from a guy that was trying to sell you a car before. And it's the same thing when you're looking to find a job. So all the while, though, I was always going back to University of Delaware and working with Coach Schillinglaw, who's one of the longest-running college coaches of all time. And I would work with the athletes that were coming out and just get an idea. What are you looking to do? Challenging them that. Why do you want to do that? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it's following in the footsteps of their father, and that's really not what they should be doing, or a sibling or somebody. Like me, I saw Jerry Maguire and I thought I wanted to be a sports agent because that's all I was exposed to. I was exposed to movies and what I was seeing on a day-to-day basis.
What about when you saw Star Wars? Maybe become an astronaut or a spaceman or something? I still love that movie.
So then ended up taking a job at JP Morgan Chase to wrap up the history and started there as a senior level recruiter, placing senior level people, but with the passion of helping college athletes, knew that campus recruiting is where I need to go if I need to understand how to manage and run a large-scale recruiting program. Because there's a lot that goes into it and what large enterprise companies do and how to manage that. And I mean, JP Morgan Chase was a great platform for me to really understand how enterprise companies recruit at scale. And then the time came where it was time for me to leave, which is kind of where I'm at now. And how do we help college athletes at scale? And that's where the athlete book has come into play.
So when you left JP Morgan and said, okay, I know there's an opportunity here because I'm going back to the campuses. I understand the nuances of how large companies, take a budget, and there is a budget for recruiting and there's a budget for, the hiring process. Some of that might be posting jobs online. Some of it might be taking up banker time or IT time and guys going down and phone calls and systems, So as you looked at all that and said, okay, look, I'm going to go do the athlete book. What are other people doing in the market right now on the athlete side to help, and maybe talk a little bit about what the career center at a school is doing to try and help these guys get jobs and how successful and unsuccessful that is?
So every college has a career development center. They have a career center that students can go to, learn about the employers that are out there. But the reality is, for college athletes, if you're a in-season college athlete, you're spending 80 hours a week between class and school activities. Mm-hmm. Doesn't leave much time for you to go outside of your track and go to a building that's probably outside of your normal pathway between class and athletics. So that means that the career center needs to go to the athletes. And I don't know in how many instances that's actually happened. And I've polled our athletes before in the past, and a lot of them haven't thought about what they want to do or are not really sure. And the statistics show that 64% of college athletes right now are graduating without a job in hand.
How many?
64%.
That's crazy.
Recent study.
64% of all D1 athletes.
Right. And then in terms of, that's athletes as a whole, not just Division I.
Okay, D1, D2,
Yeah.
3.
97% of athletes, though, are not receiving a job through the relationships of their athletic department, right? So you're spending all of your time here, right? And you need to be getting exposed to these things. But first and foremost, when you think about the college athlete journey, you got to think about having them understand what their true identity is.
Well, and also what the probability of them getting into a professional career, based on everything else that's risk adjusted for being at a high level, to risk of injury,
right?
And all those factors. So.
Sure. And look, if you're playing lacrosse, you're not going to make a living playing professional lacrosse. You might do it, and then you might, it might be a fledged thing that you do while you're also looking for your career. But let's also look at this. What I said earlier, athletes when you look at students in general, the athlete demographic is this subgroup that has a higher level of grit. It just happens just by trade of going through the day. You
can't be an elite athlete without.
Right. And
discipline. I mean, you're talking about your structure of your day.
Sure. Yeah. Structure, lifting, pushing past perceived limits.
Right.
So what would we do from a society perspective if we nurtured that subgroup? What can that subgroup do nationwide? And that's what excites me, because if you develop that person right, and really, when you look at the athlete book, when we can help them understand what their identity is, and then look at the different types of environments, industries, companies that would align to their personality, and then get them there as fast as possible. Give them the tools that they need, create virtual and live events that allow them to make connections with people that can actually hire them. And that's what we're doing.
And we met several months ago, but like the two frustrations that there are in the Halo sector, and especially with fast-growing franchises like an Orange Theory, Planet Fitness, EOS, Edge, all these different health club and fitness groups, and basically anyone else who's doing any kind of bricks and mortar rollout, is if they're good at marketing, then they don't have a marketing problem. So there's two things that are a problem. One is either marketing, and it's hiring talent and retaining talent. So those are the top two things, and everything else is way far past, underneath the level of importance there. So, when we met and we talked about, the fact that these companies are not being exposed to these athletes, and these athletes are not being, treated as real assets in the job market, that kind of created, this I just got angry about it. And usually when you get angry, you do something about it. So we did something similar with the FDNY. We found out that they needed fitness equipment. They don't have funding for it. So like we said, all right, that's not right. So let's fix it. So when you take a look at some of these college coaches, and I hear them sometimes on television, they'll be like, yeah, well, 80% of my athletes graduated. It's like, and then you go to Calipari and you're like, all right, Calipari, who's a friend of ours, he's like, look, man, I'm here to get people jobs. Okay. They're going to stay here for a year and they're getting a job. They're either getting a job at the NBA or they're getting a job, in some other league. And that's what I offer you. I offer you job placement. I'm not here to like help your graduation rate because that's not the game that you want to play.
Right.
So, obviously what we're talking about here is probably people that have actually graduated from their full, university educational path and have a diploma. But what's going on right now, and why is this such a big problem, and why hasn't anybody fixed it yet?
There are a few companies that are focusing on it, and two come to mind. And I'd rather not mention them.
You don't have to. We'll just see. Why don't you do it, and we'll just like bleep them out? Okay. No. Don't mention them. But just talk about how people are attacking the market. And obviously, there's room for other people. We want everyone to get a job.
Right. And I commend them for doing it. It's great that they're in the marketplace, but I think you have to look at how can you relate to athletes so that they're interested. Listen, when I was a college athlete, when I was a junior or senior, I was thinking about getting playtime, meeting a nice girl or girls. It wasn't that my job was the most pressing thing on the top of my mind. So how can you have to think about creating content in a way that is going to be interesting and digestible, and also most importantly, short, micro introductions to employers. And so the approach that I think companies are taking are using like a learning management system, creating live events. But, these career fairs, live traditional career fairs, they're not always conducive for making it a comfortable engagement between the employer and the athlete. And oftentimes, to be honest with you, their schedules are so busy that they can't even align, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we do with the athlete book, the main thing that we do is we do virtual online hiring events. So that's one way that we can connect in an easy time frame where the athlete can be educated on the opportunity of an employer and actually make a one-on-one conversation that's chat-based. And that's important because when you come out of practice, the last thing you want to do is put a suit and tie on and go into a gymnasium with 1,000 other kids.
No, it makes sense. So how long have you been doing this with the athlete book, and what kind of traction have you seen? And, give me some, testimonials of what people say.
We've this is something that, like as I mentioned before, it's been an effort that I've been doing on the side for a while, but now, especially the past year, have really been committed to it. And if you look at, we do events like, sales for seniors or athletes that are interested in going in operations, women in college sports, diversity in college sports. When we had women in college sports, when you think about diversity efforts at an enterprise company, everybody's trying to, especially at these enterprise companies, they're trying to increase the level of diversity amongst their internship class or their class so that it's not 70% white. And so when we can do a sales event that's targeting females, and now you have a campus recruiter who, instead of having to travel to 10 different schools, they could stay at their desk and in 1 hour have interact with candidates that have come from 120 different schools. That's a huge win. So campus recruiters and athletes alike have seen that, hey, this is fun, it's engaging, and I'm getting hooked into a company, and now I'm following them.
So when you look at the way people are currently doing it, and Rich and I used to go, down to like Wharton, take the train down, or go to Columbia, and you're working on a deal, and you're working at the bank, and now you're recruiting the next class down, and I got to get a ticket, I gotta. I lose 4 hours of work or maybe more. Now I'm going there, I'm standing up in front of, I thought 60 kids were showing up and 16 show up, So I'm like, shit, we got like our entire banking team's here. And we're like, it's like 3-on-1, it's like, we were kind of hoping for a little more attendance. When you look at companies and how much they're paying on a per hire basis, from some of the stats that you and I were batting around, maybe just share with what it costs a company right now to just have a hire out of school.
At an internship level, if you have like a large enterprise company that's bringing in hundreds of interns a year, you're spending like $12,000 per hire on average. I mean, that's going to fluctuate from company to company. And to your point, right, you're going to go to these events. I remember for a particular company that I worked for, I went up to Penn State, and this was we were targeting female hires for this company. Mm-hmm. And it was myself, a managing director, an executive director, 2 associates. We all did the 6.5-hour round trip, and there was about 20 people in the crowd. There was maybe 7 females.
Right.
None of them had the credentials that aligned to the requirement. So it's a huge waste of time. I mean, how much money is? I don't think that 12,000 equates to business loss by not being at the desk.
Yeah, you're just talking about hard costs. You're not talking about the soft costs of it as well.
And here's the thing too: it's like we're not all virtual. We also do live events, and right now we're going to be focusing on Philadelphia, Boston, New York City. But when the companies come now to have a booth at our event, we're going to be partnering with the athletic departments from all of the different schools that are in those areas. And when you're partnering with the Athlete Book to get your employer brand in front of this demographic of athlete, you know that when you come to us, there's going to be people there that are attentive. And honestly, when we do our live events, we want to be niche and topic in the focus. So, if it's a fitness company that is looking for sales and marketing support, well, that's what we brand the event around, so that the athletes that are coming, they know what they're getting themselves into, and they're actually genuinely interested.
Yeah, we'll definitely test out like a Halo sector, virtual job fair, and get our top 5 clients in there, and select some schools. There's probably not any empirical data yet, but would you say on average that a Division I, 2, or 3 athlete going into a job, maybe since they've got more discipline than the average person, that they probably stay longer? They're not probably to hop, every 6 months to the next show?
I would say that. And I saw a statistic in a recent study that said 86% of athletes placed are promoted in the first 18 months.
Wow. I didn't know that. You had that stat handy. Thank you.
I just pulled it out of the back pocket.
It's good, man. Keep that pocket big. So, as you see the next steps of the company here, obviously you've got market validation. You're talking to a lot of big blue chip companies, so this resonates with them. Mm-hmm. You've got the athletic departments that are basically saying, look, anything you can do to help my athletes, because there's only so much I can do on my own.
Right.
And also, they're not compensated, whether good or bad. Like, they're not compensated on how many of their athletes, get a job. Like, they're still focused on, like, this was the GPA of my team. Or even when you go on, like, you watch any of these games and they're like, oh, this guy, is a major in poli-sci, or this guy's a major in, business or whatever. It's like, and then it says his GPA. It's like, tell me if the guy's got a job, right? Because that's all they really give a shit about, right? Within reason. So, do you see over time, the Athlete Book, potentially being known as like, look, we've got 98% of your athletes' jobs at these like 50 schools. Like, I feel like that's like, how do you think about like the milestones, not just like getting the company to the next level, but like how much, what's the metrics at the end to say like, hey, this is what we've done. Like, this is amazing.
Look, long term, my goal is freshman comes into our ecosystem, and by the time that they're a senior, not only do they know what they should be doing in life or have a good idea based off of their personality results, but they aren't just looking for the first thing that comes their way, but they have at least 3 options to choose from. And they've explored and had conversations with people at those companies, and they know what they're getting into. So like my metric and goal is for every freshman that comes in to at least have 3 options that they're choosing from, and they're getting hired prior to graduating. They have offer in hand, and we're taking that 64% that don't have a job in hand, don't know what they want to do, and we're drastically pushing that down. And I know that that's achievable.
And then from the athletic directors that are, obviously going to be listening to this podcast, or someone in the career development center at some of these schools, let them know, one, that you're aligning with them, you're not displacing anyone.
Right.
2, talk for a couple of minutes about some of the content that you've created to basically create this effectively like a job education portal.
Yeah.
So talk about that. It's not just somebody logging in to Facebook and using a messenger and bam, I got a job from somebody I don't know.
Right. Well, listen, I think, when you look at the athletic departments, most athletic departments have a person that focuses on career development and life skills, but they're just one person. And I've talked to so many of these individuals, and again, I commend what they do. It's just hard, and you need the right support and the right resources. And I often feel that sometimes it's just checking the box. Hey, we did an interview workshop. We're good till next quarter, or whatever the case is. We brought an alumni in to talk. We're good.
Right.
And it's not. That's not good enough. So I lost a little bit of the question there.
No, just saying that, as you go into these schools and you say, look, the athlete book's here.
Okay.
We're not trying to take your job away.
No.
We're trying to make your job easier, and we're trying to give you guys more options, and we're going to make this process as seamless as possible. So it's a win for the athlete. It's a win for the department. It's a win for you personally, because now I'm making your life easier, and I'm giving you basically like a dashboard and a lead gen tool. And for the recruiters, it's like, look, you could stay in your office. You could screen people. We're basically doing all the work for you. And, you like these, top 5 athletes, you prioritize those, and then we could set up, either the one-on-one conversation or some kind of chat, and it just allows people to kind of manage that entire process.
I'll say this for the athletic department who might be, let's say they're listening to this and it sounds interesting. What do you get? What's the athlete experience? And when you work with us, and we basically have one plan, and there's 3 levels of commitment: 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. What the athlete is going to experience, one, is exposure, right? They are going to have media content that is created to be engaging and interesting, number one, right? So when we are talking to employers, we're going to make that story micro learning, educational, but interesting, and we are also going to leverage Messenger so that those, it's getting seen the way that students want to communicate. So that's SMS most likely. They're also going to get a 2-minute personality assessment. The problem with personality assessments oftentimes is that they take 20 minutes to take, so you have a very low adoption rate on these. The product that we're using, I'm not going to name, but if they're a vendor product, and we have a 98% completion rate. It's picture-based, and it's basically the athletes looking at different pictures. It's me, not me, me, not me. It's a really excellent tool. When they're done with that, they're going to get an assessment kicked out that shows them exactly who they are, where they might find conflicts, what types of groups complement them, and then a button that shows them their different career match opportunities, so they could start to think, based off of science, what type of careers align to my personality. And a lot of schools will say, yeah, we have one of those in our career development. Yeah, but you probably don't have one that has a 98 adoption rate. So that's important, especially when these students don't have time.
Is that also available to the potential employer, or this is basically the employee, the athlete?
So with investment, we want to look at ways that the athlete has the ability to reveal their personality traits to the employer, but that we're always very FERPA conscious on what the athlete can disclose and not disclose from a data perspective. But also the athlete's going to have access to our virtual online hiring events. Now, we do a number of virtual online hiring events throughout the year on different industry topics. Now, but when you're a paid member, your athletes are going to be on the first to know list. And also they're going to get access to the exclusive events that the free schools don't have access to.
Got it.
So it's really a matter of accessibility. And then the third thing is the employer jobs that we promote on our site, and all of the video content that we create, and also the courses. So one of the things that, having interviewed thousands of people and helped thousands of people get jobs, is I create a lot of interview course content, and also networking advice, and how to message people on LinkedIn, and the way you want to approach it, how do you want to research it, all the template guides that you get when you're going in for the interview process. And then we're, with other professionals that we have in your organization, they're associated with Harvard Business School and Columbia on, first 90-day transition. So we reach out to a variety of different experts that are leaders in their field to help them kind of uncover, how did you get to where you're going to go, and what should you expect if you're going to go down this career path. All that stuff is available to the student athlete in the packages that we sell.
Great. So you're based in Wilmington, Delaware. I see you very frequently in New York. We're going to help put together this round of capital to turn this into reality and really target, a specific region and blow this out and help a lot of people. For the investors that will contact in the athletic departments and the recruiters, what's your, give us your, final sentence on like the mission of the company and what's about to happen and, how you kind of pull it all together.
Yeah, well, and I think in saying that, we should say who we've worked with so far that have been paying us, and we've had paying clients that include Amazon, GE, Yelp, Mass Mutual, JP Morgan Chase, Under Armour, and Securian Financial, and we plan to connect college athletes to employers in a very efficient and effective way that has not yet been done. And we want to focus on the Fortune 500s from an enterprise perspective, work with the largest, most robust opportunities from an analyst program, internship analyst programs. But we also want to work with sports marketing, entertainment companies in the Halo sector. And those are the companies, the smaller size companies that have the smaller compliance and legal departments. That's where we want to focus on creating our employer brand stories so that we can show athletes interesting things. And look, where do athletes want to work? I mean, a lot of times, they want to work in finance. Yes, they want to work in sales. But a lot of them want to carry on that path of working in the health, active lifestyle, outdoor marketplace. I know that's something that was appealing to me and a lot of my teammates as we graduated.
Great. Well, part of what we're doing on the Integrity Square side is trying to bring growth capital into companies in the Halo sector. And once that capital's in, they're on a growth trajectory. And the main thing they need is human capital. Yeah. And the people are, make or break. You take an A management team with a B concept and you're going to win. You take a B or C management team with an A concept and it's not going to work. So we're excited about, making sure that we can help you fulfill this platform and get it out there and work through and make sure we get, to a point in a couple of years where employers and athletic directors say, hey, just go to the athlete book. Like they'll take care of it. Like that's where you go. So that's the plan.
I'm excited about it. And, it's not possible without, the right partnerships, because you can only do so much as a small company. And so being able to have the right support with the right companies, the companies make the difference, right? If you have, and I think when you do look at the competitors, I'm not going to name the companies out loud, but like, maybe not all the most appealing companies to me. I want to make sure that I'm working with cool, exciting, sports-based type of companies.
Yeah, well, this makes a lot of sense, and we're grateful to meet you. We're excited about where you're going. We appreciate the work that's been done so far to figure out, like, how do we get this opportunity honed in and make sure we build this properly with you. Yeah. And thanks for coming on the show, and look forward to seeing you frequently.
Yeah, I look forward to being here.
All right.
My wife's sick of looking at me, so I got to get out of Wilmington, Delaware.
All right, so we'll get her a two-way computer, and she can watch you work from the Halo the Halo ecosystem right here from 135 Madison. So, hey man, we're excited about what you're doing. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks.